Hi everyone, today we're going to create a combat system that is inspired by both Last of Us or Uncharted, and maybe a bit of Arkham. And to do that, we're going to create a targeting system, a motion warper, attacking system, damage system, attack trace, dodge system, cosmetics, and we're going to do all of that inside one component. This project is going to be componentized so that you can use this on top of your own project. If you haven't done any Unreal work before, that is completely fine. Even if you're a complete beginner, that is fine. I'm going to create the system from scratch in hopefully under an hour. So let's open a fresh project. I'm calling it MC Lite because it is short for Magnum Combat Lite. So we have a third person project opened, and we're just going to click on edit plugin. We're going to enable the motion warping plugin because we're going to use motion warping. Click on restart now. Just wait for a bit. If this is your first time on Unreal, just go ahead and play around a bit, see if the control works and stuff. Most tutorials will probably tell you to open the blueprint and then start from here, like do coding stuff from here. But I'm going to do something different. We're going to create a new folder called Magnum Series, because this will be from the Magnum series. And blueprints. Now right here we're going to create a new component. So it's an actor component class. Click on actor component. I'm going to call it ACMC Lite. Right here we are going to right click, get owner, and create a reference for our owner. So promote to variable. I'm just going to call this variable owner, or maybe owner blueprint. I'm calling it owner. Okay. Get owner. I'm also going to get the skeletal mesh of the owner, skeletal mesh. And we're going to promote this into variable skeletal mesh and click compile and save. Now that we get this done, we're going to create a custom event called attack. And on attack, I'm just going to use play montage and let the skeletal mesh play an animation, but we do not have animations yet. And to do this, we would need motion warping animations that are made for motion warping systems. And we're just going to get that from Fab. So motion warping animations, I'd like to call it motion warping animations. It's basically animations made for motion warping systems. And like this one, for example, Survivor Pack, Volume 1. I'm just going to add this to the project. Now, let me explain. Motion warping animations. Certainly, you would want the character to cover some distance before actually performing the attack. With motion warping animations, the character actually moves and covers some distance before actually performing the attack. And the motion warping system will help emphasize that movement instead of going like, and that's not what you want. You want the character to realistically move according to the animation itself. Let's just create this montage and call it attack 1. Actual attack is performed right around here, 130. And we can mark this with a new montage section called immediate. You would want this at exactly 130. This is where the attack actually happens. There is a moment where the character actually moves toward the target. This is where we would utilize our motion warping plugin, letting the component move according to the movement of the animation. That's why the attacks will look so natural instead of forced, like that. This is what I tried to cover with the previous version of Magnum Combat without using the motion warping plugin. And we have choreographed a few movements. If it starts from like a clump, and then it will open. Then the animation, any kind of animation would work. And that's exactly what happened in the old version of Magnum Combat. But the newest version of Magnum Combat, which is where you get, if you use Unreal 5.4 and up, you'll get the Magnum Combat that actually utilizes the motion warping plugin. Okay, so now that we have this montage, and we also have marked this with immediate, I'll explain to you how cool it is to mark this with immediate. You'll see how cool it is. Okay, we are going to add notify state called motion warping. The motion warping should start when the character kind of starts moving. So it should start like right about here and ends when the character kind of hits the target. I think right about here. Well, I mean here. I'm guessing here. Here's fine. And on the root motion modifier, if you don't see this, click on the notifier that you just created, and on the warp target name, drop this down. On the warp target name, call it ATK, short for attack. You can use any warp target name, but the warp target name has to be consistent because you are going to use the name later. We are going to make sure that this is ticked, and warp rotation is also ticked, but the rotation type should be facing. Okay, we got that done. We are going back to our component, which is this. Now we can perform the attack. But before that, we are going to assign an input. We want to perform the attack with left mouse button. See, this character right here, this is just a blank character. It cannot do anything, like there's no code in there. If you click left mouse button, there's nothing assigned to it. It won't do anything. All the codes are inside this component. If you add this component onto your character, your empty character, or your existing character, even if you have like your own project with your own character, and then you would like to add a component on top of it, then everything in that component will be callable. So now you can perform an attack. And as you can see here, there are no codes like at all, except for like the movement, camera input and movement input and jump input, of course, because the codes are all inside this component. And if you bring this component onto your own character, now you can do whatever the component enables you to do. Now you can perform the attack, which is great. Okay, you see how that goes back to the initial location? The character goes back to the initial location. That is because we haven't enabled root motion on the animations. So we're going to go back to all of this. I'm just going to enable all the animations, root motion. So bulk, click, and then edit selection in property matrix. Now, if you have like lots of animations, you can just use filters. So filters, animation, and then animation sequence. I have this filter enabled right here. I mean, ready to be enabled right here. And I'm just going to select all the animations that are in here, and asset actions, edit selection, and property matrix. See, the root motion are disabled. I want to enable all the root motion, not just on one animation, but on all of them. So let's just enable root motion on all of the animations. Yep. Now that we're done, we're going to save the animations, and we should be able to move along the route. Okay, great. Now we are going to start creating the targeting system. The targeting system is used when you have an enemy that you would like to attack, but you have no way to target the enemy. So you can just perform this. There's no way you can target the enemy without a targeting system, because yeah, you can tell that there is an enemy, but you haven't told Unreal yet. And this is how we tell Unreal how you should target the enemy. So go to the component and then we are going to create a custom event called trace for enemies. We're just going to do a simple multi-sphere trace for objects. And we are going to trace for pawn. Yeah, default characters, they're pawns. And world static is for something that isn't moving, like the floor, and world dynamic is probably this, like this cube with physics objects enabled. Yeah, it's movable, so it's a world dynamic. But this one is static, as you can see here. Yeah, it's static. The mobility is static, and we do not want to trace for that, right? If you take a look at this blueprint right here, this thing is gonna be a pawn. That's like the collision. The collision presets. It's set to pawn. That's why we would want to trace the pawn. Yeah. Things that are classified as pawns, we want to trace them. And the start and end of the trace should be around the owner. So get actual location. The start should be exactly where the owner is, and the end would also be where the owner is. But the radius, this is going to be something that is editable later. So trace enemy radius. Let me show you what this does. If we make this public, if we make this visible and editable on each instance, okay, let's make this 300, and let me show you how it looks if we have the radius for 300. So for duration, we are going to draw, for 5 seconds, we're going to draw the trace, and we're just going to perform trace for enemies on every attack. So trace for enemies should be performed before every attack, like each attack. We should trace for enemies first. See, that's 300. That's 300. If we make the radius 500, for example, the trace should get bigger. Okay, and making this public and editable, like the variable, when you get the eye to open, right? You would be able to see that variable on the component's instance. So trace enemy radius is now here. So you can have like multiple characters with the same component, but each of them can have different settings. That is if you make the variable public and editable on each instance, like when you get the eye open. Out of that trace, if the trace actually hits, we're going to get everything that is being hit by the trace. So for each loop with break, we would see the hit result of the actors that are being hit by the trace. And out of the hit actor, we're going to check if the actor has a component, and that component is actually MC Lite. If the actor has this component, then we would like to set this actor as our target. So let's rename this as target, and then we would stop the trace by getting the pin onto the break node. Now that we have our own target, we can mark this with a comment box called trace, or maybe targeting system. This is halfway done. I'm just going to, yeah. So the targeting system is halfway done. We'll get back to that later. Now we are going to create the motion warper. On blueprints, we're going to create a new folder called notifies. And right here, we're going to create anim notify. So anim notify state with like this, with like anim notify state. I'm going to select it and call it ANS motion warper. And on the functions tab right here, you can see that when we hover the cursor to the functions tab, we we can see the override drop down. We would want to click on received notify tick and also on received notify end. We're going to do something with the tick first. We're going to get the owner of the one that is performing the animation, and we are going to check if that actor that is performing the animation has MC Lite component. And if it does have the MC Lite component, then we'll get to do something with the MC Lite component, which is not yet. We're going to code that first. So to code this, we're going to create a custom event called add motion, add warp target. So add or remove warp target. We're going to do that. And right here, we're gonna create a branch. To quickly create a branch, instead of right clicking and then search for branch, you can just hold B on your keyboard and then click. That's how you quickly create a branch. We're going to connect the branch onto the custom event node and just write add or remove. What we're going to do with the true flow, we are going to add motion warping, add or update warp target. Okay, that's what we're going to do. But this thing is actually for the motion warping component, but this component is not motion warping component. So we're going to get the component out of the owner, get component by class, and then search for motion warping component and set this as the target, because if we do not set this as the target, you will get an error when you compile. See, this blueprint is not a motion warping component. This node is from the motion warping component. That's why you would need to do it on the motion warping component. Now, the warp target is still empty. We do not have the warp target. To do this, we can either split struct pin, or you can make warp target right here. Make motion warping target. Now I'm just going to do split struct pin, and remember that we need to write ATK as the one we have written on here, warp target name. You can just copy if you make mistake. Type something that is complicated, just right click on it and copy, and then paste it onto the warp target name. The warp target location is going to be the target's location. So get target, get actor location, and then boom. We would also need the warp target rotation. So get actor rotation, and we basically have our own motion warping system here. But who's going to call this add or remove warp target? We would also need a way to remove the existing warp target, because maybe we have another target, maybe the target had already died. That's why we would need to create remove all warp targets. Boom. Okay, now that we get it done, we're going to call this on the notify that we just made. And on MC Lite, we're going to add remove warp target. And in here, we'd like to add warp target. And on notify end, we would like to remove the warp target. So copy and paste. But in here, even though we're doing the same thing with the same node, but here we would like to remove. So set that to false. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Yep. There we go. Okay. Now that we get the ANS motion warper done, we are going to put our notify state, our very own notify state onto the animation itself. So ANS motion warper, I'm just going to color it differently. I'm going to color it red for, okay. I'm just going to place the timing right before the motion warping starts. Yeah. Because if you place it here, the motion warping will start, but will not have the target yet. So right here, when the motion warping starts, it'll make sure that the motion warping component has a target to go to. Okay, on MC Lite, we got the motion warper system done. Oh, also, we would need to ask if the target is valid or not. If it's not valid, then we're just going to remove all warp targets. Doesn't look pretty yet, so let's just make it look pretty. Yep, yep, there we go. Yep, that looks fine, I think. No, not yet. Yeah, there, yeah, there we go. Looks better, kinda. Yeah. Now that we have the motion warping done, the motion warper done, we have both motion warper and targeting system done. Now we can target, and the motion warper would know where to go. Let me just show you how that looks. So on blueprints, let's say we have this third person character placed there because this blueprint has MC Lite component, and it also needs motion warping. Sorry, so motion warping component, we need to add that onto our character. So when we play it, we should be able to warp onto the target because we have a target now and we can hit the target. So from far away, boom. If you don't like to, get the character to do that from such a distance, you can create like an extra condition. You can just reduce the trace enemy radius to, I don't know, 300 or maybe 400, right? What we'd like to do also is to, before performing each trace, we would like to invalidate the target. So set target, boom. So what this does is when you get out of range from the enemy and then you would like to attack, the system still has the previous target to be valid. Like the system still holds the information of the previous target, but the target is now far away. When we perform the attack, you shouldn't be able to, warp onto the target from far away. That's not what you would like. That's why we need to invalidate the target and do another check if that target is within range. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. So when we play, now that we have the target valid, and it should get invalidated when we're far away and perform another attack. But when we're close, yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, great. I'd actually like it to be 500, to be honest. Okay, 500. Great. Now we got the motion warper done. We do not have an attacking system yet. As you can see that the enemy did not react to our attacks. We would actually need both the attacking system and the damage system. To create an attacking system, believe it or not, we would also need to create the damage system first, because then what would happen on the attack? Damaged. Okay, let's just create the custom event for the damage for now, and then we'll code the damage later. On attack trace, I would also like to perform a simple multi-sphere trace, and the start of the trace should be passed on to the event itself, and we're just going to call it trace start. I'm going to call it that, and the end should be at the same location. The radius of the trace should be passed on to the event. The object type, we're just going to make array and then go for pawns. Yep. Trace complex. Draw debug type. We are going to pass it on to the event node, and draw time. Yep. There we go. This is a very simple attack trace system, and out of the hits, we're going to do for each loop, and with break hit result on hit actor, we're going to check if it has the MC Light component, and if it does have MC Light component, then we'll do some damage. And that's basically it. See? So let me tell you my plan here. So let me tell you my plan. When this event is called, there's going to be a trace that happens, a multi-sphere trace. I'm going to stick this trace onto a bone. Like for example, if you want the character to hit with his right hand, then we'll get the location of the right hand and put that location on the start and end, and the radius. Then we'll get the uh, like a sphere around the hand to basically detect if it hits the enemy or not. And if it does hit an actor, it will check that actor if it does have a component, which is MC Light, the component MC Light. And if it does have that component, then on that component we'll call the event damage. And what happens on damage, we're just going to play montage, and because we do not have like a damage montage yet, we're just going to get that. We're going to create that. Gold name animations, survivor, hits. So maybe we're gonna get hit number 1 is fine. I think hit number 1 is fine. So let's just create a montage. AM hit 01. Yep, that looks fine. That looks great. And play that montage here. And we are also going to create a new notify state. So blueprint class, and go to anim notify state. Call it ans attack trace. An override function. On override dropdown, we're going to receive the notify tick, and on mesh comp, we're going to get component by class. Oh, sorry, get owner first. Get owner, and then get component by class. We're going to check for MC Light, and if it does have the component, then we are going to perform attack trace. It will ask where should the trace start, right? Because we have passed along the values onto the custom event. So when anyone calls this event, it will ask for these informations, these variables, which is something that we're going to determine here. So right here on mesh comp, we can actually get socket location, and in socket name, we are going to we're going to make this a variable that is going to be editable on each instance, and you'll see why. And out of this location, we're going to connect this onto the trace start. The radius, we are also going to create a variable that is going to be editable, and draw debug type, we're making this a variable as well, and draw time, I'm going to make this a variable as well. So by default, these values should be none, and draw time should be like 3 or maybe 2. I'm guessing 2 is fine. Yep. Draw debug time and radius. Okay, by default, this should be hand R. This is my setup. You can leave the default to be none, that's fine. Because when we call this ans attack trace, let me show you. So on attacks, we're going to call the ans attack trace. So get notify state, and on ans attack trace, oops, we're going to call this notify, and it will ask for a few variables, a few values, the values which are made public here, made public and editable. And on this instance of this notify, we can edit these variables. Now, obviously, this guy is attacking with his right hand, right? Yep, he's attacking with his right hand. So I'm just going to leave the socket name to be hand R. If you don't know, like if you have like a different skeleton, you should just character bones all hierarchy to see which one is what the bone name is, and then out of that you can right click, copy selected bone names, and then paste it onto here. If you want like if you want to attack from the left hand, or maybe the foot, maybe you can just see the bone name out of this, and on on the skeleton tree, you can just right click and copy selected bone names and then copy it onto the socket name right here. Okay, so the radius should be 30, I think. And draw debug type. If you want to see the trace happening, just set this for duration or for 1 frame. I'd like the attack to stop tracing right around here because he's done punching. Okay, now we should be able to see the trace itself. So let me perform an attack. See, now we have performed a trace. Boom. And we should be able to hit the guy now, I think. Oh, not yet. Not yet. Why? I wouldn't know. Okay, because damage is coded, but I haven't assigned the skeletal mesh onto the play montage. Like the play montage does play, but it does not know which component should I play this montage on. Now I have like assigned the skeletal mesh. I should be able to perform. Yeah, I should be able to attack there. Okay, as you can see, like you see like a bit of a delay, but it's really not a delay. It's because this happens on tick, like this notify here happens on tick, and it will happen every time it hits. So every time like the green stuff, you can see like the green sphere, that happens like that amount of time. That's like, I don't know, 30 times, 20 times, because there is basically no cutoff. Does that make sense? Okay, let me just visualize that to you. So print string, yeah, let's leave it that way. Let's leave it at hello. When we play, you will see like a lot of hellos instead of just one hello. See? Because it's happening on every tick. We would like to suppress that. We would like do once node. Do once, right? And then we would like a delay node. And the duration should be made into a variable. And I'm calling it damage cooldown, right? It's a cooldown before the enemy can get damaged again. So I think 3 seconds nice. 3 seconds a good cooldown. And after that delay, we are going to reset to do once. I'm guessing 3 seconds too much. What if you want to, combo your enemy? Maybe damage cooldown should be like, I don't know, 1.5 seconds. Yep. We'll see how it goes. Now, if we have like do once, the hello should only happen once. And that makes more sense, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's just delete this hello. Boom. Now we have done the damage system. We also have the attacking system. We also did the attack trace system. Now we would like to dodge because we'd like the enemy to hit us back. Okay, now that we already have the damage system and we have the attack trace system, I'm just gonna mark them with comments. Damage system. Yeah. Now we're going to create a dodge system. So custom event dodge. Right here, I'm just going to create a simple dodge system where you can dodge left and right. So I'm just going to create a branch here and then left, right. But this branch, I won't be using it. I'll be doing play montage uh, as we did before, skeletal mesh. Let's not forget that. And on the montage to play, we are going to use a select node, and the index should be left or right. So left is true and false is right. Yep. And we haven't created our montages, so let's create our montages for dodge. Right here we have quick dodge, step dodge. Let's go with quick dodge. We have dodge left. So create anim montage dodge, and then right. Create anim montage dodge right. Let's see how it looks. Yep. Now with these two montages, right is false and left is true. Compile and save. And on the third person character, we're going to use Q keyboard and E keyboard. Yeah, E keyboard is something that we gotta find because I don't know why it wasn't that way on Unreal 4. Yep. And out of MC Lite, we are going to perform dodge. And with Q, I'm going to dodge left. And with E, I'd like to dodge right. So compile and save. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I haven't connected that. Compile and save. Now we should be able to perform right dodge, left dodge. That looks fine, right? Boom, boom. Yep, that looks really nice. I'd like the enemy to have like a different attacking montage, right? The enemy should perform like a different attacking montage. So we would like to make the montage to play a variable and call it attack montage. Yeah, what if you have like a different character and you would like the character to play a different animation on their attack, right? And this is how you do it. You will make this variable public and editable. By default, the montage should be attack 1, but we are going to create another one for our enemy, and the enemy should use, I don't know, let's just duplicate this first. Duplicate, and I'm guessing the enemy should use that. Yeah, this one's nice. Now, the coolest thing about the Survivor pack, they all happen like right at the same time. So all you need to do is just replace the animation. The actual attack happens like right at the like around the time 1:30, and then boom. So right here we just need to replace this with foot R. Yep, foot R. And if you see like the games, if you notice like in the games like Last of Us, there's like a bit of a cue for you to dodge, to help you dodge, and like a sound cue to help you dodge. Now, I have recorded a sound. I've recorded something for this project. I've recorded this. Let's just place this onto the anim montage, which is here. So play montage, play sound, and we have this. See? So the player would know when to dodge. Yep. And right here, if you see the component selected, when a component is selected, you can select different animations on each instance. So you can test out the animation actually. Yep. We're just going to duplicate this. So VP call enemy, and we'd like the enemy to be, many. Yep. And we're going to delete everything here, and we're going to delete the camera, follow camera, yeah, and leave the enemy to be just with this and the component. We'd like the enemy to perform an attack on begin play. So get the enemy to attack. Maybe we should get the enemy to wait a bit, so delay for 1 second, and then perform an attack, and then the enemy should like wait for, I don't know, 6 seconds, yeah, 5 seconds, and then perform another attack. That looks really bad, but yeah, this should work. The enemy should start attacking us now. And on MC Lite, we'd like the enemy to perform this attack, and our own character to perform this attack animation. So we have our own animation for the hero character, and the enemy should perform like a different animation. Okay, can we dodge? Yeah, we cannot dodge because that's because the enemy is warping actively onto us. So we'd like to create a tolerance. Edit MC Lite. A tolerance on every dodge. We'd like to become invincible on every dodge performed. So let's just create a new boolean called invincible, and then set in for a specified amount of time. And I'm just gonna call it dodge tolerance. And when the delay is completed, we'd like the invincible to be set to false. The dodge attack tolerance should be, I don't know, maybe 0.4 seconds, so we can dodge right at the right time. And We just cannot get damaged when invincible is true. So we cannot get damaged when invincible is true. So invincible not has to be true. So not invincible has to be true for damage to happen. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can dodge the. Yep, that looks very promising. Yep. Would also like the character to not do collision test, like the cameras. Okay, that looks really nice. Kind of like Last of Us, kinda, you know. Tell me why you can't get damaged again. Oh, that is because invincible default value is set to true. We do not want the invincible value to be true at all times. Yep. See? No, we cannot get damaged at all. Nice. Okay, why can't we get damaged again? That's weird. That is weird. Oh, it is because of this. Yep, there we go. Because the reset hasn't happened. Yep, great. Now we can get damaged again. Okay, great. Boom. Now to make it more like Last of Us, yeah, we're just gonna get the camera to be a little bit closer right here. Yeah, does that look great? I wouldn't know. Yeah, it should be like a bit moved a bit to the right. Okay. Yeah. That looks scary. Okay. Yep. Okay. Let's see if we can get the enemy to perform our own animations. You can see that it's. Whoa. Okay. Let's see. Ouch. I did not touch it the right time. Ouch. That hurts. Okay, that's kind of hard. Yep. That looks fine. That looks great. Okay. It's really hard. Boom. See? I can do it. Okay. Great. Now that we can dodge, we can get the enemy to attack. The enemy can also perform other animations. Yep. I'll show you something cool. Now, before performing an attack, which is here, we'd like to trace for enemies. And out of this, we can actually get the target, right? Out of trace enemies, we will get the target validated and we can actually get actor location and then we can check the distance. Now, we're getting the distance checked between the owner, between the main character and the enemy or the target. And if the distance is less or greater, or maybe less, is less than a specified value, like maybe less than 150, then we would get the montage starting section. So it returns true if it's less. If it's less, then we should use immediate. When the enemy is close to us, we do not need to like we do not need to do this. We do not need to walk onto the enemy first and close some distance. We just need to immediately attack. So let's see how that looks. And let's see how this looks. Okay, now let's get the distance to be, I don't know, 200. 200 is nice. Okay, so if we're actually close to the enemy, like 200 units close, we can immediately counter the enemy's attack. And yeah, see how cool that looks? Boom, boom. Okay, boom. Yep. Okay, let's delete that guy. Okay. Yep. Yep. That's it for today, guys. Yeah. If you want the whole system, like the whole system is going to be on my Patreon. Like this project file is going to be on my Patreon for free. You can follow along the tutorial and create your own, of course. But if you want this project file, you can get it for free, and I'll give you like a few animations from here just to get your project going. And yeah, if you want the project like fully realized, you can check out Magnum Combat on Fab. Like this is going to be like the light version. Yeah, I'm going to create like a light version of Magnum Combat, and this is going to be like the starting point of that light version. But if you want like a full version where you can, have input-based targeting, you can also play with gamepad. With or you also have like a beatdown system, and you can counter or disarm an enemy. So you can get the sword out of the enemy's hand, and then perform takedowns or finishers. You you also have like an action cam system, pretty similar to Arkham, and we also have like a lot of animations included. And we have swords, guns. You can parry. You have like an upgrade system too. Just check out Magnum Combat. The link is on the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, good luck with your own project.